better daily, where we work hard in our minds, bodies, and our spirits to become 1% better every single day. Download the app and join our Betterment family at betterdaily.live to catch the video version of these podcasts. Here's your host and my dad, Alex Van Houten.
What is up, Betterment family? This is Alex Van Houten in Better Daily Live. Happy Tuesday. It is Nutrition Tip Tuesday, and on Nutrition Tip Tuesday, I cover something from a nutrition perspective to help you on your 1% better journey. And today we're going to talk about oxidative stress. I know, sounds riveting. Actually, it's very, very important and something not a lot of people understand. I'm going to try to make it simple for you to see how what you're taking into your body affects the way that your body responds to it on the inside. And so we need a brief science lesson here. This might be stuff that you learned back in the day. It might be stuff you've forgotten. Maybe you're a nerd like I am, and so you wish I would go a little deeper into this, in which case you can drop a comment, and I'd be very happy to get a little more crazy. But let's review a bit of biology, okay? Every single one of your body parts is composed of something called cells. Really, really tiny little units of life, right? I think in the biology book that I read when I was like 6th grade, it was the smallest unit of life, meaning that a cell has your DNA in there, and it has a bunch of different moving parts called organelles, and they do the job of the cell. Some of the organelles create energy, like mitochondria. Those allow energy, ATP, to be created from the food that you eat. For instance, there are organelles that create the chemicals required for the cell. Those are called lysosomes. Then there are organelles that, like the nucleus or the endoplasmic reticulum, that are responsible for protecting the DNA and reading the message of the DNA to make new cells. And then there's this thing that wraps every single part of the cell. So all around the cell and all around the organelles, called membranes. And membranes are really important because most of the activity that happens in the cell and around the cell and in each organelle is controlled by membranes. And the membranes of your cells are made of the fats that you eat. So, real quick recap. I know that was a lot, but you eat food, fats, carbohydrates, proteins, and then a bunch of micronutrients like antioxidants, for instance, or vitamins and minerals, okay? But you eat those things. The fats that you eat eventually become the building blocks for the membranes that every cell in your body and every organelle in your body is wrapped in, right? So imagine that there are some fats that are more easily damaged than others, okay? Some fats more easily damaged than others. That means that your cells and the organelles inside of them could be more easily damaged if the membranes are made of those fats. So I'll use an example. So check it out. I've got a piece of paper right here. If you're listening to this visual picture, you can still use this visual picture. Imagine that this is a membrane. See, I'm going to wrap up an organelle in it. There we go. It's really hard to make a sphere out of paper without messing it up. So we're just going to imagine that this is a membrane that is folded around. Let's use mitochondria, for example. It's just folded around it, right? And what's cool about membranes and mitochondria is a lot of the action that happens in a mitochondria happens on the membrane. And so the electrons are passing around on there, and if it's made of really good fats, then this happens really well. And so you produce a lot of energy for the body. You're really good at breaking down fat as a fuel source. You're really good at processing carbohydrates as a fuel source because your mitochondria are wrapped in great fats, no problem, right? And this is hard. It's hard work, okay? The electrons are zipping across here all the time. And so if the fats are nice and smooth and nice and strong and nice and resilient, the fats that you ate, nice and smooth, strong, and resilient, then they're not prone to damage. It's really hard to mess up this mitochondria. And if you're listening to me rather than looking at the picture, what you see is a nice smooth surface that is undamaged and untrammeled, right? Okay, now, then something crazy happens to you if you're eating really crummy quality fats on a regular basis. all of the membranes in your cells and the membranes in your organelles, they become wrapped in subpar fats, meaning that they're very easily damaged. And so I'm going to crumple up my paper here like that. And we're going to make our, ooh, look at that. Look at that crumpled, messed up paper, okay? Even if you open again, you can never really straighten it out, right? It's got all kinds of folds and creases and stuff in it. Okay, so then let's wrap our mitochondria in that. Well, look at this bumpy surface. You see that? How in the world is my mitochondria supposed to break energy down from my fats and my carbohydrates with a surface like that? This surface is very easily damaged and so becomes less efficient for allowing the transfer of electrons. And this is actually what we find in the research when we look at cells composed of mostly omega-6 fatty acids versus cells composed of mostly omega-3 fatty acids. When cells are mostly composed of omega-3 fatty acids, that's one of the fats I would say is a very high quality fat for you to be consuming. When our cell membranes and our mitochondrial organelles are composed of omega-3 fatty acids, what they show is that over time, there's a lot less breakdown of the cell membranes altogether. And so they're able to do their job better, and they're able to do their job longer without breaking down. And so your body doesn't have to continually make new cells. In fact, the organelles that it makes stick around longer and do their job better. It's like cars built in the 1950s. It's really, really hard to mess up a car built in the 1950s. Those suckers were built to last, man. And I know they have their own fair share of bugs in the engine, but seems like some of the newer cars that I've purchased in my life, it's almost like they're designed to break down after a decade or so, like they're built of crummy materials compared to the solid steel of the 1950s. Now, I know there's plenty of environmental reasons for that, but my point is, when you build your body, you build yourself out of the food that you eat. And one of the focuses that you need to be thinking about each week is how can I make sure that my quality of fats is very high most of the time. And those subpar fats that are building easily damaged mitochondria and easily damaged cells and easily damaged membranes, let's keep that to a minimum, right? So what does that look like? For most people, that means that they need to make a concerted effort to increase the amount of omega-3 fatty acids in their week. So, for instance, the average person who comes to me and sends me their food journal for a week through the Jumpstart program, they, like very few and far between, are they eating anything with high omega-3 fatty acids. They're not getting salmon on a regular basis. They're not getting tuna on a regular basis. They're not getting sardines. They're not getting mackerel. They're not getting even supplementing an algae source or an anchovy source to bolster their omega-3 fatty acids. And so one of the things I'll say to them at the end of a Jumpstart is, hey, you need more seafood in your life. And they're like, oh, I like seafood. I'm like, I don't care. Because when it comes to building strong cells that can respond well to oxidative damage is the fancy way of saying the damage that comes with the hard work of creating energy and enzymes and doing work inside of the cell. If you're building crummy cells, that is going to affect your health in a negative way. It's going to make you more prone to inflammation. It's going to require more restoration and more immune system response to help you create new cells. And overall, it's just really hard on the body. Over time, you're going to get much poorer results from an exercise perspective. You're going to be maybe even cognitively lower than you should be. You should maybe have a better short-term memory. Maybe you should feel like you have a little more energy and think more clearly. Maybe your sleep could be deeper. Who knows? The many different things that could happen if you would just build your cells out of higher quality fats. And so for the average person, this is something that it's not hard to change. It really is not hard to change. It's just a matter of developing a taste for some of the things that have higher omega-3 fatty acids. It turns out that those higher quality fats, those higher quality omega-3 fatty acids, those are things that people aren't used to eating on a regular basis. And so it takes some time and energy. And if all else fails, if you're like, all right, look, Alex, I know you're always pushing sardines and mackerel and salmon and tuna and all those things at me, and I'm not eating algae, so you can take that one somewhere else. then what do I do? And in that case, I would say you can supplement with omega-3 fatty acids. Those supplements exist. However, you still need to reduce the amount of omega-6 fatty acids in your life. And so for most individuals, omega-6 fatty acids are coming in the form of seed oils, of the oils that are cooked right into ultra-processed foods. So like if you enjoy a bag of potato chips, for instance, the oil that went into the potato chips. If you look at potato chips, you'd think potatoes are a carbohydrate, right? So if you look at the nutrition label of potato chips, the carbohydrate count should be really high compared to everything else. That's not the case. The majority of calories in a potato chip actually come from fat, and that's not in the potato. That's soaked into the potato through the cooking process. And so you actually end up with, 10 to 14 grams of fat per serving of a potato chip versus the carbohydrates, which might be somewhere in the neighborhood of 12 to 20 grams of carbohydrates per serving. And in terms of calories, there's 9 calories in 1 gram of fat and 4 calories in 1 gram of carbohydrates. So if you had the exact same number of grams of fat to carbohydrates, you're actually getting way more calories in the amount, or in the actual fats than you are in the carbohydrates. So anyway, all that to say, most of the time when I help people identify foods that are high in omega-3 fatty acids, it's these ultra-processed foods. It's the foods you're going to get when you eat out. It's the foods that are in the pantry and shelf stable, because those fatty acids are really good at preserving foods. So, that's nice. It's nice for food companies because they don't have to, they don't have to replace food that spoils so much, but it's not very good for your cells. And so today, if you want to reduce the amount of stress that's internal to your body, well, it's one thing to deal with the stress that's external to your body, but there's stress that's internal to your body, processes that you can't shut off that are causing damage to cell membranes. If you want to reduce that stress, one of the ways you can do that is to become better in the quality of what you're building your cells out of. And that is going to require a change in your omega-3 fatty acid to omega-6 fatty acid ratio in your week. I'd love to hear how you accomplish that. Let me know in the comments. Guys, this has been Alex Van Houten in Better Daily Live for Nutrition Tip Tuesday. Tomorrow is Wednesday, and I'm very excited about what I'm going to get to share with you tomorrow. But until then, it's just 1%. You got this.
Thank you for joining us for your 1% Better today. Don't forget to subscribe for the podcast. Leave us a raving review to tell others how Better Daily has helped you in your journey. If you want more Better Daily, download our app and join our Betterment family at betterdaily.live. Use code POD to get 25% off your subscription. That's POD, all caps, to save 25% on your subscription. We all have a cross to carry. It's lighter when we do it together. Go to betterdaily.live today.